Hello, everyone. This is episode 3 of Stars of Tomorrow podcast. This is Heather Cannon, Uniting Distant Stars co-founder and executive director. Please bear with me today. I have a little bit of a cold, so if I sound a little weird and I may pause or something, that's why.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin Na. I'm a volunteer here with United and Stars. I've had the opportunity to do a few things with UDS in the past, and I'm very excited to be on this new venture here with Heather. So, again, Heather, thank you for letting me be your co host.
I'm more than happy to. So today we're going to talk about providing youth options, and it's an important topic to talk about because I think sometimes young people feel stuck, isolated, um, sometimes hopeless.
Hmm.
And Kevin, I know you got involved in your church youth group because that's how I got to know you. Can you kind of give some insight what that experience was like and how that shaped your life?
Yeah. So, as Heather mentioned, I got introduced to United and Stars when I was a junior in high school through my then youth directors at church. Um, Up to that point, I had really just been helping out with, here and there with maybe projecting the lyrics and other things in the church for the regular service. But I was trying to be a bit more active as far as the youth ministry in my church. One Sunday, my former youth directors, they invited Heather to speak with us and introduce Uniting Distant Stars and everything that they do. So from there, it's just something that really, resonated with me, and just seemed like something that would be great to be a part of.
Okay. Yeah, it's good to know. And how did that youth group did that give something for you to build the foundation for you to move forward in your life?
Yeah. But up so after that point, we had actually been working on, doing different services, acts of service ourselves. So just as a way for our ministry to, get the word of the church out there. So I know we volunteered at a homeless shelter a few times, did a few other things in the community. So yeah, that kind of just helped me find an area of where I'd like to put time and effort to any spare time that I did have. As far as being able to pursue something like that going forward, and United Distant Stars was another opportunity for me to do such.
Nice. And one of the things and why this topic's important is like for Uniting Distant Stars, by us providing a space for people to come to learn, whether it's, finish up their academic education or learn a trade skill, oftentimes UDS becomes their home and family. Not every young person you might not be living with their family. We see that a lot in the US. And sometimes they just don't feel like they're part of something. And one of our graduates from 2022, I know he posted one time a response to one of my posts, and he says, UDS makes you feel like somebody and you became visible. And I think for a lot of young people, they do feel invisible. They feel like they're not valued. They don't feel like anybody cares. And because they don't know what their options are, sometimes they can go down a wrong path.
Right.
And I think giving them options, giving them know that there's options, I think is important for them to know that there's a better path. My first time going to Liberia in 98, um, even though sometimes people call it the split between the two civil wars or the quiet part during the civil wars,
Hmm.
there was combatants still in uniform. Some were child soldiers, some were already moved into early adulthood, but started in as child soldiers. And a child soldier gets into it not by choice.
Right.
They're usually forced into it, but a lot of times they might have an opportunity to leave, but they didn't know there was another opportunity. Same way here with street gangs, sometimes young people don't feel they have an option. And so I think you had talked about in our last one the importance of that mentorship.
Yeah.
So can you talk more about that for
Oh yeah,
you?
certainly. So yeah, and also this is a great opportunity if you haven't heard our second episode to take a listen to that. You can find it on YouTube and wherever else you can find your podcasts. But yeah, mentorship, I believe, is something that I think gets overlooked sometimes. If you want to say, discipleship as well. But I just wanted to give like one example. Let's just say for like here in the States, there are like some communities have like boys and girls clubs, so like after school programs where after school kids can kind of like learn, like maybe different computer things or, they have like different activities that kids can do just so like once the school day ends, they don't have to just go home or, go into trouble. It's like giving them an outlet or an opportunity to learn different things to keep them away from trouble. And I'm not too familiar with the school system in Liberia, but maybe having something like, maybe just like an after school program
Mhm.
or even, just having activities for kids to engage in that, may open doors to, different opportunities or passions that, they never really knew that they had.
Yep, and we do have after school study classes for some of the kids, and some of the people don't want to go home. They'd rather stay there. So
Right.
it takes a while to get everybody to leave for the day. But yeah, because as we said in our last episode, a lot of our young people might have family out in a rural area and they were sent into the city for an education, but doesn't mean everybody that they lived with is ensuring they get that education. They might have them do house chores, they might help sell in the market. So I think when you have a place where you're seen and you feel valued, I think that can be transformational because if you are not seen and you're not valued at all, you can kind of fall into traps of, you know, on that unworthiness, hopelessness,
Mhm.
and get in with the wrong crowd. And we often, I feel we need to do more to invest in young people. They are the future. And it reminded me of an article I read. The Standing Rock Nation had a protest back in 2016, 17 over a pipeline, and the Indigenous or International Indigenous Youth Council came together and they actually ran, I think it was a petition or something, all the way from South Dakota to the Army Corps of Engineers in Washington, D.C. But it
Okay.
was a New York Times article, and it talked about how once they formed that council, suicides had dropped. They built a community because they felt so depressed, so just beaten down by, their own historical trauma as being an indigenous people here in the US. But it gave them, some purpose. And they continued on after that protest ended and they became branches throughout the country and stuff like that. So it's so powerful, especially when you can have young people lead. Now, you guys, because we know Elijah and Gradia, they had been on my board, they were your youth ministers,
Mhm.
but they also empowered you guys to be leaders too, right?
Yeah. Even with things like, like I mentioned, we had different trips to serve food at a food kitchen or shelter. So some of that leadership aspect kind of came from them kind of encouraging us to, like, go out and like reach out to our friends, and try and get them to join as well. So as far as, just taking that initiative to reach out to others and have them join as well, or even just meeting amongst ourselves and then bringing an idea back to them in order to, kind of, just continue to build that sense of, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Not really freedom, but proactivity. Yeah, just being
Productivity.
proactive with just sitting amongst ourselves, collaborating, and then once we do have an idea, we can bring it back to them to, say like, hey, this is a great idea, or kind of just like give their advice on how to possibly, make things work. So yeah, I just feel like that's something that really helped us with, just developing our own leadership skills and being able to, be a bit more responsible and take more ownership of creating opportunities.
Yeah, and I think that's important because UDS from the beginning, we've always listened to the young people. Our courses are based on that. And I think twice a year they have a meeting with everybody, just to get their feedback. How are we doing? What could we do better? And everybody's comfortable speaking out. There's not like a hierarchy there where it's like, oh, we better be quiet. We're going to rock the boat. No, it's because everybody knows that we're trying to do our best to serve them and to empower them to be able to be employed or be self-employed or finish their high school. And it's just building that sense of community and
Yeah,
decision making as a group, like you said, and being heard. You and I know that a 9-year old, even in the US or Liberia, are not always the same as every 9-year old. You can
right,
have a 9-year old in Liberia selling in the streets, or you could have a 9-year old that's responsible for, taking care of their younger brothers and sisters here. They don't necessarily have the same childhood as someone who's 9 who doesn't have to worry about those
right.
responsibilities. So we can't think of them all at the same level.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what we mentioned in our other episode, where it's like it kind of depends on the environment that someone's brought up in.
Hmm.
Um, just like you had said with the 9-year-old. So you might have a 9-year-old here in America who they may not have to do as much because they have, access to so many things. But on the other hand, you might have a 9-year-old in Liberia where they're the eldest of their siblings and they kind of like either help their parents take care of the rest or they're in that role where they do have to, provide for the rest of their siblings. So it's all about the environment in most times.
Hmm. And that's where it's like, here, if you're a young person listening, excuse me, some of your options could be going to a library, going to a church. There are free places that you can go. Like the library is good because you have access to the internet, computers, books. Sometimes there's free training there. For Kevin, I know the church is good for fellowship and building community and gaining, leadership there as well.
Hmm.
There's a lot of different youth groups, and it's really knowing that they're invested in you. You don't want groups that might take advantage of you, not treat you well. So
Right.
always be a good shopper, make sure that you're gonna get something out of it. But I think what's important here is knowing that you do have options as a young person. That I know there's days that can just seem impossible. You're so caught up in whatever crap you're feeling, the problems that are weighing you down and stuff like that. But tomorrow's a new day,
Right.
and you might think about, oh, I know this person or I know this place, and realize you always have options, because I think that's what's important. Because I know some people get into the wrong situations because they felt lost.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, and I think another great outlet as far as just knowing that have young people know that they have options are career fairs.
oh,
Uh,
yes.
I I don't think I went to my first career fair until maybe around high school or college, but just like having, just like it was like if you just have a normal setting like a gym, but you have like different um, presenters or different exhibits where people are going over, okay, here's my profession, here's all it entails, here's kind of what the day to day kind of looks like. It's just a great way to like show young people that there are like endless possibilities. Like you don't have to, go to school for the conventional things. Like maybe you want to be like an astronaut or you see someone that's an entrepreneur. Because I know there are fairs also for entrepreneurs where, they showcase, their story, and how they, took how they started and everything like that. So I think like career fairs is another place you can start, as far as, just being able to check out the options that you have. Um, in addition to that, some community centers, they do have things like that, along with their other programs. So I know you had mentioned the church and other places like that, but I think community centers are kind of a bit underrated because
Mhm.
it's like some
I
people just think
agree.
they're kind of there, but they
Hmm.
don't really like know or take advantage of the different programs or resources that they have. Because I know here in Brooklyn Park, there's like a newsletter we get called like the park pages. So it kind of just like has like, calendar of events, things going on in the community. So yeah, just things like that. Small things like that. If you take advantage of them, it can kind of like open, you never know what doors it might open to you.
And for Liberia, we had set up a Uniting Distant Stars alumni student Facebook group. And I think it was the European Union recently had a job fair. And I only saw it the day it happened, but I need to see when it will happen again and try to make sure I get that posted ahead of time on that. And realize when you do those career fairs or job fairs, if you're in the US, work with someone to build up your resume. That would be your CV in Liberia. Um, and again, experience, if you're like learning vocational training, but let's say you haven't had a real job, but if you've been taken out in the field, that's experience.
Oh
You
yeah.
can list that. If you did some volunteer work, you can list that as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's not. I mean, for me, I learn more by being hands-on more than
Hmm.
just watching and listening. So what you said about, just going into the field and learning something that way, um, I think the quote unquote ride along is probably one of the best teaching techniques out there, because it's like you're in like a live environment and you can like kind of see and interact with like different things. That way you're able to, get a better sense of like what you would encounter on a day-to-day basis. So definitely is something as far as something to take advantage of. But I just have a question actually. I'm not sure how much of an emphasis there is on, career fairs or things of that nature in Liberia. Or maybe that's something that, going forward should probably be looked into, as far as like, especially in the schools, just as far as,
There hasn't been much yet. I mean, it's something that why I found it was interesting how the European Union had one, because the private sector is pretty much foreign owned.
okay.
And they typically are not ones to do such programs. The government jobs, there's so many, and most of them don't pay very well. But I think what you talked about earlier, maybe more of an entrepreneur fair, would be maybe something more in line to what Liberia is. But I'm going to do more research to see, because I'm trying to get that group where I can feed in information if there's a scholarship, if there's a training program with, whether it's through the US Embassy, the Swedish Embassy, the UK Embassy, the EU, because I've been following a lot of these pages now, so I can share that information. And I know one of our graduates recently had an opportunity to do a training through USAID. So it's it's finding the right resources and
Right.
continue to show them what the resources are, because unfortunately, like what you said, your community paper, right?
Hmm.
There's nothing like that in Liberia,
Yeah.
where you get to know what events are coming up. So this is kind of why I'm trying to see what's out there. And like I said, this one I found that day it happened is the day I found it. So I don't know if it's an annual job fair, if it happens quarterly. So I got do a little more digging on that, because it would be nice to get some of our young people exposed to that. And maybe the first time around, maybe they won't be as prepared as they like to be, but if a few go and then they can say, okay, this is what you need to do, then we can make sure we can get people prepared before they go to that in the future. And I'm not sure if sometimes these job fairs are dealing with the international NGOs. It wasn't quite clear because they didn't have a link to anything, so I have to do a little more digging on that one. Because it would have been nice if they would have had a link to more information.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think as far as the integration of some of these things, it's like you mentioned, resume or CV writing. That's something that, maybe either a group of students could kind of, just come together and start themselves,
Mhm.
or if maybe there are other programs they can start teaching in the schools, like, computers or, some other special classes. Like here in America, if you go to like a high school, you'll have like home economics, wood shop, computer lab, things like that. So just kind of those like specialty classes, because that's pretty much where career fairs kind of stem from. It's like
Mhm.
schools have those programs in place where they meet after school to learn certain things and discuss certain things. And in most cases, like sports, you kind of start to create a community. I do have a story actually. So
Okay.
this was my freshman year of high school. So freshman year of Fridley High School. I was a new kid and I really wasn't sure, other than band, what I was gonna really be involved in. And I've never really been a sports kind of guy. That's more my younger brother. But I remember my mom. She had signed me up or had forced me to join the swim team, and I was like, I don't even. And this is like competitive swimming, and it's like I'm not even sure like what I'm gonna be doing or like what I'm gonna do. It's like I have no idea. But needless to say, once I started getting into it, it really like opened me up to like make new friends, meet new people, learn a new skill. I mean, I had like done like I guess swim classes at like community centers in the Y and things like that, but like not really competitive swimming. So actually learning a new craft. But the crux of it is really just being able to open me up to new people, especially me being a new kid in the school. I was able to meet new people, start to learn new things, and it really it was a time commitment. I will say sports are a time commitment because
Mhm.
after school you've got practice, and then it's like you've got to be able to juggle your homework. So most times when people ask me like how did I spend my weekends during school, I'm like, listen, I've got school during the day, I've got practice afterwards, and then I've got to get my homework done. And then when the weekend comes around, I'm really too exhausted to like, really do much anything else. Well, I did have practice on Saturdays sometimes too, but
Okay.
yeah, so it kind of like had, gave me some, helped me with like time management, kept me out of trouble there. Um, gave me something to really focus on as far as
Right.
developing and just focusing on schoolwork and stuff like that. So
What was your stroke?
I did a little bit of everything. Um, Another funny story. So before the end of my senior year, my coach came up to me because I did varsity every year except for my first year. And he's like, "Well, Kevin, you've done every event so far except for the 500 freestyle." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't like the 500 freestyle because it's more aerobic of an event because you've really got to pace yourself." But I'd say my favorite stroke that I did was the butterfly.
Okay.
But I've pretty much done every swimming event possible except for diving. I I just sit there and watch him do those things. I'm just like, I don't really think I'd be able to do that. But yeah, it was pretty fun. Had some pretty good times with a few friends. Like sometimes after practice, especially like during Christmas break, because we had practice during Christmas break as well. Because the way it worked, the girls their swim season was during the fall, and
Okay.
then the boys we had our swim season during the winter. So
Mm.
even during winter break, it's like that entire week or week and a half. It's like we had practice like in
Oh,
the afternoon.
wow.
So it's like No, but maybe like a few times I just like got together a few friends. It's like, hey, you want to come over, just like play some video games or like hang out and stuff like that. Just to see a movie. So yeah, it was actually pretty fun. I will say the least favorite moment from swimming was 10K day. Um,
Mm,
so what 10K day is was it was actually during winter break practice. So it's
okay.
entire practice committed to swimming 10K.
Mm,
So you couldn't really leave until you swam the entire distance.
oh,
The way
wow.
we kept track of it is like we used the lights in the pool area to kind of keep track of like where we were in the set. So by the time you finish, all the lights should be on.
Oh,
So
wow. That's interesting.
yeah, it was, some good times.
No, but what I liked about that is you tried something new, you took on the challenge. You were able to meet friends. Like you said, you learned some skills that is helping you now in day-to-day life, like time management and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I would say discipline has to be a big part of it if you had to do your practice during your winter break. 'Cause it's like
Oh yeah, it's like usually it's like you think like you'd have like just like the entire day to yourself, but it's like we get the schedule and it's like okay, we still have practice at like 3 o'clock in the in the afternoon. It's like
mm,
okay, so because I remember one time with I wanted my brother and I our friends we wanted to go see a movie. So I was like, okay, guys, what time is the movie? Like, when are we gonna do this? So it's like kind of like trying to like plan all the logistics around this day. And
right.
it's like, okay, guys, I want to hang out with you guys, but it's like I've got practice later this afternoon. So, in order for us to have like enough time to like hang and like actually see this, we should probably go like a little earlier in the day.
Right, right, right. Well, going back what you said earlier about having those additional classes. So like our computer students, when they learn Microsoft Word, they learn to build out their CV and they can write up their CV. Um, and now we had received 50 Chromebooks here this month. They were donated from someone here. We gave out 20 to our staff, our teachers and instructors,
Hmm.
but the other 30 will be used for the students. And one thing is definitely getting online more, because before I left Liberia in October, we did get a new internet service. So that way we can have them getting more exposure to that.
Right.
Um, and you're right. I mean, the skills are so important because that's, you did it in the retail side and I did it being the casino. Once you can't learn customer service in a classroom.
Oh no.
You have to learn that in whatever job you have. There's no way they could ever teach
There-
that in a classroom.
yeah, there's no way around it.
But if you have, once you get into customer service, you can do anything because you got to deal with all different personalities, all different temperaments from happy to not so happy. You
Yeah.
have to adjust yourself. What is acceptable? What is not acceptable? How do you de-escalate a situation? You learn a lot in something that I think people don't realize is so powerful is that customer service aspect. So again, if you're a young person listening to this, just know you have options. And I think we've talked a lot of different options here, whether it's school, whether it's a community center, whether it's church, whether it's a library, if you have one. Um, it can be other youth groups. Um, know that you always have options. And sometimes, well, I don't have money, I don't have a ride or whatever. Well, start thinking about who do you know? Who do you know that's in your community that might be able to give you a ride or might be able to do this? Again, there's always options, but sometimes we look at only the negative in our life. We don't take time to say, what is good in my life? And when you start doing that, then things, oh, I know so and so, and maybe I can talk to them, or maybe they could be my mentor,
Right.
because it could, it doesn't have to be the professor of a college. It could be a nice elderly man in your neighborhood who's wiser beyond whatever, it's like he's had lived experiences that you can gain from. So don't ever feel like whatever your situation is that you're totally limited because we want to let you know that there's plenty of options. And when you get into those options, when you find the right place, or it might be more than one place, like you had the community center, you talked about the swim class, you talked about your church youth group. You've had a lot of different opportunity, and I know you were involved in your schooling. So it's really what can you do to better your life, but to find the right people to get you into that place.
Yeah, and I will say it. Yeah, like you mentioned, it's just about using your connections. Like if you know a friend or maybe a neighbor that'd be able to, help you out. I know when I was like maybe about 5 or so, I took karate classes, and sometimes my parents weren't able to, take me to class because they were working. My karate instructor actually was one of the ones that was like able to like pick me up sometimes and carry me to karate class, or even like
Nice.
when I moved to Coon Rapids. One of my best friends that well, he's not really, he's more like a brother to me, but because we've known each other for years, but his dad was more than gracious enough to carry me to some of my karate classes and stuff like that because we were in the same neighborhood. So sometimes it's just like reaching, going out of your comfort zone, and using your connections, reaching out to those that are close to you, um, because it's sometimes it's all about paying it forward, you know.
Right. And again too, I like what you said, get out of your comfort zone. Sometimes we can be our worst enemies. We can create this whole barrier to our life saying, oh, it can't be done. Well, I'm not worthy of this. But if we step forward into whatever we're afraid of, um, you'll find out a lot of times those fears are not real and that you're able to do something more with your life. And because we want, again, I think as young people, we can feel that the world is small, but it really isn't if you allow yourself to reach out and talk to people and know what your options are.
Yeah, well said. I mean, sometimes, it's either yes or no, but at least you asked, so.
Right. And don't let no's, sometimes you gotta like, well, maybe not yet.
Yeah, just say not
Um,
yet.
you know, it never hurts to keep asking and trying and realize don't just go out there and ask people for money because people are not going to know you. They're not going to
Right,
know what
yeah.
you're going to do, but you can ask, I need some advice. I may need a ride, things like that. You
Mm.
start out from there because everybody still has to show what they're capable of. You're not going to find a lot of people that are just going to like give you money without knowing you.
Right.
Um, but again, there's other ways that people can serve you. And it's knowing that, okay, I just want to sit down and get some of your wisdom. You've lived this long, you've had these experiences. What advice could you give me to get me out of my rut, get me out of where I'm stuck, and keep moving forward? Kevin, I lost your video.
Oh, sorry about that. Just had a brief connection issue there.
That happens.
All right.
Technology is still not perfect in this world.
Imagine, so and it's the 21st century.
It
Imagine
is,
that.
it is, it is. We take a lot for granted, but and yeah, and if you do have internet and you have access to online information, there are certain youth groups that provide resources. The library has a huge resource. If you have a library card, you can log into a lot of different things there without physically going there. Definitely get a library card if you don't have one. I wish I know some people are trying to get libraries over in Liberia, but it'd
Mhm.
be nice if we could get into the Hennepin County library system here for Liberia,
Oh yeah.
because, just give them access to just the databases and stuff.
Yeah, just some few things there just to start off.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So I think we had a good conversation today about giving youth options, and know what they are, and know that anything is possible if you, like Kevin said, get out of your comfort zone, get out of your own way. Sometimes we can be in our own way. And you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, now I say that knowing that sometimes I'm kind of hesitant to, reach out to people, because if I don't know you, I'm not really sure how to approach you. But, sometimes I'm just like, you know what, it's either yes.
All right, Kevin, you froze. Okay, I don't know if Kevin can, because sometimes I noticed the last time he was talking and I was talking, but I saw him frozen. And so we'll just give it a moment. These are the fun things with internet. So let's just give this a moment. I'm just gonna text him real quick. And oops. Make sure my internet didn't crash. Nope, I'm still online. Okay. Going to. Okay, he's leaving. He's working on his connection. So while we wait for Kevin to come back, we can put the link to our youth group in this conversation in our show notes of this podcast. Um, because it's a group that we've been building now, I think since 2019. I'll have to look it up again. And we try to provide information from other, besides Liberian resources. Sometimes there's a book I read that might have some good information, or I find a site that has information on, how to develop certain skills. So it can be very universal, not just for people in Liberia. Um, but it's just a way of giving information to young people. Sometimes as adults, older adults, um, we can provide them resources to help them, and give some guidance, be those mentors, be those coaches, um, whatever it is. We all play an important role in helping these young people, because the one thing I keep hearing from our young people, whether it's when I'm there or we do a virtual event with them, is UDS made me become somebody. UDS is home. UDS is family. And I think that's powerful, you know, what impact you have on people. And so this is why we wanted to talk about what are the options for young people, because I think a lot of young people are frustrated around the world. They don't feel seen, they don't feel heard, they feel sometimes isolated. And when you are doing programming for young people, you want them to be full partners, meaning they have a say. They're part of the conversation. All right, we got Kevin back.
Oh, I am so sorry, everybody.
Yeah, you have no control over the internet gods. It's funny, you said earlier we're in the 21st century.
Uh, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I just wanted to finish my thought there. So yeah, sometimes it is a little bit intimidating taking that first step, especially if you're kind of introverted like myself. But sometimes when you do, because I've reached out to individuals in the past, and I wasn't really sure what their answer would be. Like I said, it's either yes or no, but most times, often than not, you end up being surprised and they're willing to help you out. So sometimes it's worth, just putting yourself out there, as difficult as it is sometimes. But trust, I do understand.
Right. Lean into that fear and just ask. Yeah. If they say no, it's not the end of the world, because there'll be those that will say yes, And like I said earlier, sometimes it might be not yet. That no might just be not yet. And maybe there's a time you can come back to them and say, well, I've done X, Y, and Z, and can you give me some guidance on this one? And they'll say, oh, yeah, I can do that now. So never think that doors are like closed, locked. You can't get in there. Unless they're rude to you, then yeah, walk away. But if they're not
Yeah,
rude to
yeah.
you, let's put that in there. Let's clarify that. So, okay, I think this has been, again, another good conversation between Kevin and I. We serve different generations, different backgrounds, but we can talk about things that from our own lived experiences or understanding of the world based on where we've been, what we've done. Um, I do want to go over just a couple quick announcements. Right now, we are recruiting for our eighth cohort of vocational training students. We will provide you some information in the show notes on that. These are 1 year diploma programs. They get 85% hands-on learning. We have a variety of trades, so you'll have that information. Also, I was happy as of today, we reached our goal for Ishmael's scholarship fund. We wanted to
Woohoo!
raise 5,000 and we raised $5,005 to be
Hey,
exact. So we're going to be helping 40 academic students in our school to learn vocational trade school skills over the next 2 years. So that goes right with what Kevin was saying earlier. If you can get that stuff in high school, it can really make a difference. So we're pretty excited about that. And I think the big thing is as we close up, we're right before Christmas. So we want to say Merry Christmas for those who are Jewish. Happy Hanukkah. That starts on the 25th this year. There's Happy Kwanzaa and Boxing Day we do have some people in Canada. So we just want to wish you all those happy holidays. And of course,
prosperous.
2025 is knocking on our door.
Yep. Hope everyone has a great and prosperous new year. We're excited to see you on the other side in 2025.
Definitely. And we'll figure out what our next episode is as we go into the new year. So stay happy, safe, and warm if you're in the cold areas.
Where I am, or where we are, actually. Excuse me. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, you
All right.
have a great
Bye,
Christmas
everyone.
too, Kevin, and Happy New Year.
You as well, Heather.
Okay. Take care.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.